The price of empire, when power outspends its promise. 1. The empire that ran out of change. Imagine ruling a quarter of the planet, only to end up borrowing lunch money. That was Britain in 1949. The same empire that built railways across continents and ruled the seas stood before Parliament, announcing a 30% devaluation of the pound. Overnight, the symbol of global dominance became a discount tag. This wasn't strategy. It was surrender. The British Empire, after defeating Napoleon, governing India, and winning 2 world wars, was broke. Completely. Publicly. And permanently. The battlefield didn't end it, compound interest did. So what does that actually mean? It means even the mightiest fall, not from invasion, but from invoices. Footnote. The devaluation of the pound in 1949 marked Britain's formal economic surrender, proving that empire cannot survive on debt-fueled prestige. 2. The debt that ate an empire. At the dawn of the 20th century, Britain was the world's financial center. The pound sterling was the global reserve currency, what the dollar is today. London lent, others borrowed, and the sun famously never set. But then came World War I, and the bills arrived. From 1914 to 1919, Britain's national debt jumped tenfold. Gold reserves vanished, exports collapsed, and for the first time in modern history, Britain owed the world instead of owning it. It's like going from being the bank to being the borrower. By the 1930s, debt to America hung over every decision. When Britain defaulted in 1934, the Chancellor brushed it off, not a dog has barked. Well, maybe not that day, but the echo still haunts their balance sheets. Footnote. Britain's transformation from global creditor to debtor between 1914 and 1934 was the pivotal reversal that crippled its financial independence. 3. Victory on credit. By the end of World War II, Britain had won, but financially, it lost everything. Debt hit 200% of GDP. Half of all spending went to war. Exports were dead, gold was gone, and the colonies that once sent tribute now sent invoices. India alone was owed over $1 billion. The empire was officially in the red. To stay afloat, Britain begged the United States for the Anglo-American loan of 1946. In today's terms, it was a $60 billion bailout, with strings attached. The pound had to be made convertible to the dollar. Within weeks, everyone holding pounds rushed to trade them for dollars. It was a run on the empire's prestige. Footnote. Britain's forced dollar convertibility in 1946 triggered a capital flight that permanently ended sterling's global dominance. 4. The dollar takes the throne. By 1949, the pound was devalued. The empire was over. Power had officially crossed the Atlantic. The United States became the new creditor of the world, complete with its own global currency, military reach, and expanding network of allies. The baton was passed, not through war, but through wire transfer. Then came the final humiliation, the Suez Crisis of 1956. Britain tried to flex one last time, invading Egypt to reclaim the Suez Canal. America responded not with bombs, but with bonds, threatening to dump British sterling. Within days, the Bank of England's reserves evaporated. The invasion ended, not from defeat, but from a margin call. Footnote. The Suez Crisis of 1956 confirmed Britain's subordination to U.S. financial power, illustrating that control of money now outweighed control of territory. 5. The empire that kept paying. The bills didn't stop when the empire did. Britain spent the next 60 years paying off its World War II debt. The final check cleared in 2006, an $83 million goodbye to the United States. Imagine paying for a war you won longer than most empires last. It wasn't failure of courage or culture, it was arithmetic. Debt compounds faster than victory. Britain's story shows what happens when a superpower confuses access to credit with actual wealth. Footnote. Britain's final World War II debt payment in 2006 closed a six-decade cycle of financial subordination to its former colony, the United States. 6. The American parallel. Now, fast forward to today. Different century, same symptoms. The U.S. federal debt is over $33 trillion, roughly 130% of GDP. Interest payments alone are larger than the entire defense budget. And just like Britain a century earlier, the United States borrows in the same currency it prints. Convenient, until it isn't. America's military footprint spans 865 bases worldwide. Defense spending dwarfs every other nation combined. Sound familiar? It should. Empires overextend when they can't distinguish global leadership from global liability. Footnote. The U.S. mirrors late imperial Britain in its reliance on debt-financed global dominance, suggesting similar fiscal constraints will define its decline. 7. The warning signs. Every empire dies the same way, gradually, then suddenly. The dollar's share of global reserves is shrinking, sanctions are backfiring, and foreign creditors like China are holding the kind of leverage America once used against Britain. The historian Neil Ferguson put it bluntly, when a great power spends more on interest than defense, it stops being a great power. That milestone has already passed. So what does that actually mean? It means the warning lights are flashing, but everyone's arguing about the music. Footnote. Rising U.S. interest obligations mark a structural tipping point where financial strain begins to undermine global military and political power. 8. The choice ahead. History offers two options, reform or decline. Britain tried both and got neither. America still has time. It can trim its debts, scale its empire, and share global power. Or it can double down on denial until markets make the decision for it. Empires rarely recognize the end when it comes. They call it temporary liquidity trouble. They call it transitory inflation. They always think they have time. Until they don't. Footnote. The conclusion warns that without fiscal reform, America risks replaying Britain's imperial debt cycle, ending not in conquest, but in quiet insolvency.